Who hasn't fantasized about winning the lottery? Being able to afford all of life's luxuries and getting to share it with your loved ones. Howard Walmsley had this dream, but he took it too far when he lied to his wife and told her he had won millions in the lottery. His lies spiraled out of control and he would go on to scam hundreds of thousands of pounds from innocent people just to keep up his fake luxury lifestyle. Howard Warmsley was a 43-year-old painter and decorator from Doncaster, South Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. He was married to Kathy Wamsley and the two lived in modest council housing. It was September 1998 and things were not going well. They had been married for 5 years, had 8 children between them, and financial troubles caused a fracture in their relationship. Howard's painting business was failing and the couple's bills and debts were piling up. The couple even temporarily separated. Things were very dire. One day the Warmsleys were out shopping and Kathy noticed a pair of shoes that took her fancy. They were only £8, but she put them back on the shelf forlornly, saying they couldn't afford them. Howard then told her, "Get them. I've won the lottery." That little lie, though well-meaning, would soon snowball into major deceptions. Initially, Howard told Kathy to keep the lottery winner secret, which is actually good advice for legitimate lottery winners. Plus, deep down, Howard knew there was really no good reason for the couple to spread the news since it was all a lie. However, he was the one who ended up telling his sister and his neighbor, and from there, the news spread like wildfire throughout their close, tight-knit community. Suddenly, everyone in their town knew that the Wamsleys had hit the lottery jackpot. Wherever Howard went, he was eager to shout drinks and foot the bill, and unsurprisingly, he became very popular. Everyone wanted to be his friend, and he loved it. The Warmsleys hosted a big celebration with their friends and family, which was attended by over 60 people. Howard promised a lot of his close loved ones that he would give them all checks for £50,000. Howard's sister later recounts that she didn't even know a lot of the guests, and it was obvious many people had pushed themselves into Howard's life to enjoy his non-existent winnings. That didn't seem to matter to Howard at all, as the champagne flowed and the good times rolled on. He was no longer Howard with the failed business and failed marriage. He was Howard, the lottery winner, and Mr. Popular. Kathy was of course back on board, their marriage was revived, and it was time for a holiday. Howard and Kathy went on a luxury holiday to the Canary Islands, a coastal paradise off the northwestern coast of Africa. The couple splashed out and celebrated hard, and again, Howard generously bought meals and drinks for everyone, including people he had just met. Whilst on holiday, the Walmsleys befriended another English couple and shared with them that Howard had won the lottery. The information spread around the resort, and once again, Howard instantly became everyone's friend and was always happy to pick up the bill. As we know, Howard was actually in major debt at this time. So how did he manage to afford this holiday? Somehow, he was able to obtain a bank loan, and this was perhaps what gave him the confidence to escalate his lie. The way Howard was freely spending large amounts of money did concern Kathy, as he had never actually divulged how much he had won exactly. Back home from their holiday, the bills continued to pile up, which did not help ease Kathy's worries. When she shared her doubts about the money with Howard, he told her that the winnings were being held in offshore accounts he couldn't access, and the money he had received so far was just the interest it had accrued. Still uncertain, Kathy decided to phone Camelot, the operator of the National Lottery, to inquire about the win. She wanted to know if her husband had indeed won, and she wanted to know how much. They couldn't actually disclose any winners' names, but they did provide her with all the dates that the lottery was drawn and the amounts won. She examined the data and deduced that the date Howard won would have been the 17th of October 1998. As she dragged her finger down the list of winnings, she saw the figure £8,904,558 and thought, that must be it. That must have been the amount Howard won, almost £9 million. Kathy, in a state of disbelief, went to Howard with this figure for validation, to ask him if this was indeed his win. It was the perfect opportunity for Howard to confess then and there and put an end to the deceit, but instead he answered, yes, that was his win. The worst part of it was, that number was a lot more than the phantom figure he had in his head. Lie after lie, it was getting more and more difficult for Howard to confess the truth. It had been 3 months since the big win, and the couple was still living in their council housing. Kathy still had her doubts, and Howard knew he needed to come up with solid proof of the win. So far, Howard was able to convince those around him of his supposed wealth due to his down-to-earth and humble demeanor. He was very personable, and his friends and wider community had no reason to believe he'd be lying anyway. But as the weeks went on, Howard desired a more outward display of his fortune and new millionaire lifestyle. First, Howard gifted Kathy with a brand new car. car, a silver Ford Mondeo. Then he decided he was really going to splash out and buy himself his childhood dream car, and a car that was a true status symbol. Jaguar is a British luxury car manufacturer known for its high-end, elegant vehicles. The Warmsleys entered their local dealership and bought two cars totaling about £90,000. Howard bought an XJ8 in sea frost green, and for his wife, her own XK8 coupe. The Jaguar salesman recounts that Howard was exceptionally generous, with plans to buy more cars and properties for his loved ones, as well as embark on philanthropic work. These car purchases cemented the lottery win for Kathy. Her doubts had been mostly assuaged. After all, how could her husband have made these significant purchases if he hadn't won the money? Kathy was fed up with the high crime rate and envious neighbors where their current house was situated, and was eager to build a new home fit for a millionaire. Howard, who started the lie to win Kathy back in the first place, had no objections, and the couple eventually found an old farmhouse in the Sheffield countryside. The large house needed work, but Kathy fell in love with the location and the fact that it was remote and private. The farmhouse's owners, John and Caroline Norris, were thrilled when the Wamsleys offered to buy the farmhouse for £285,000 in cash. The maintenance required on the house had become too much for the Norrises, who were looking forward to downsizing and retirement. The Norrises recount Howard as being very friendly and genuine, and they were impressed when he told them he had won the lottery. There was no reason for them not to believe him. Dream house secured, the Wamsleys even commissioned an architect to draw up all their renovation plans. They were going to renovate every room, add in a brand new gym and pool, build a guest house, and even have stables for horses. Kathy was going to finally have her dream kitchen. It was going to be expansive with top-of-the-range fittings and appliances. She couldn't wait to start building and live her new lifestyle. The couple went full steam ahead, involving more and more contractors and vendors. Howard even helped move the Norrises out of the house to a temporary caravan home so they could start demolition works as soon as possible. The estimated total cost for their plans was £500,000, but in reality, Howard was still broke. It was now 4 months after Howard's big announcement. Back in Doncaster, Kathy was getting very excited by the prospect of a new life in their custom country house. So much so that she began giving away all of their possessions. She gave away all of their old furniture and homewares, and even distributed small items like cutlery among friends and family. She believed she would be able to purchase everything brand new once they moved into the new house. Everyone in their community had seen Howard and Kathy driving around in their brand new cars, and they all knew they were planning to move into a newly renovated country house. Meanwhile, Howard was trying to figure out how to actually get the money. At this point, he had tricked his wife, his family, friends, car dealerships, banks, and many other businesses. He knew things were going to come crashing down at any moment. His debts remained unpaid, and Kathy's concerns resurfaced, causing tension between the couple. Howard was in deep trouble. He would tell Kathy he was going out for air or to the pub, but instead, he was buying lottery tickets. He was spending £60 to £70 a week playing the lottery, trying to make his win legitimate so he could finally stop lying. But of course, he never won. This was the late 90s, where everybody had a checkbook to go with their bank account. If you wanted to pay for something via check, you'd write the amount owed on a check, sign it, give it to the payee, who would then cash the check with their bank. If you didn't have enough money in your bank account, that check would bounce. Howard needed proof of his fortune, not only to placate Kathy, but to pay for his millionaire lifestyle. He found an old checkbook, wrote the amount $8.9 million on a check, and deposited it into a current account at a nearby ATM, knowing it would bounce in a few days. But that was enough time for him to print out a statement that he could show Kathy and provide solid proof of his fortune. This method worked so well that Howard continued using his old checkbook to bounce checks around for 3 months. It was with this method he was able to secure the cars and farmhouse along with his other luxury purchases. When the checks would bounce, Howard used the excuse that the money was stuck in offshore accounts. It was the morning of April 22nd, 1999 in Doncaster. Kathy was up at 6 a.m, eager and enthusiastic because it was moving day. Today marked the beginning of her new life and she couldn't be more ecstatic. Suddenly, there was loud banging on the Walmsley's front door. The banging and shouting went on as Howard and Kathy clambered downstairs to answer the door. They were greeted by 6 detectives from the South Yorkshire Police. Howard says that he felt an immense sense of relief at that moment when he saw the police. He thought it was all over and that he could finally stop lying about winning the lottery. But the detectives told Howard that they had a warrant for his arrest related to debts from his previous failed business. They didn't know anything about the lottery win. Howard, realizing that the police were here for an unrelated matter, lied once again and said he had won millions in the national lottery and he would be able to pay back all of his debts. The news took the detectives aback, but Howard was still arrested and taken to the station, with Kathy accompanying him. Neighbors who witnessed the police descending upon the Walmsley residence were quick to spread the news, and soon rumors of fraud and potential counterfeiting were rampant in the Doncaster community. At the police station, Howard was interrogated all day into the night. He stuck to his story of winning the lottery until finally, late in the night, he came clean. The police then ushered Kathy into the room and made Howard confess to her. The truth came out and the pretense was over, at least for now. Kathy immediately threw Howard out after he told her the truth, that he had never won the lottery. With Howard in custody, Kathy was left to pick up the pieces. She was the one who had to tell their loved ones about the lie, that there was no money and there never was. She had to tell everyone that they would not be able to give any checks or gifts that had previously been promised. As if that wasn't enough for Kathy, the police made a discovery that would be another bombshell. Howard had not one, but 2 extramarital affairs, and manipulated these women into giving him money to help keep up the lottery facade. During one of Howard and Kathy's separation periods, Howard met 39-year-old nurse Anne Armitage at one of his painting jobs and began a romantic relationship with her. The two got serious, and Anne took out loans totaling £30,000 so they could put down a deposit on a house and start a new life together. She even lent Howard her brand new silver Ford Mondeo, the car that Howard told Kathy he had bought with his winnings. Tabloids reported that Kathy even had to drive the car back to Anne to return it. The 2 women reportedly spoke at length about the double deception, and Kathy told Anne, "I believe I've been driving something of yours and you've been shagging something of mine." The Norrises, the couple who owned the old farmhouse, lost over £30,000 as they had to sell the house quickly to cover the expenses that Howard left them with. 3 months after Howard's arrest, Kathy took him back. She wanted to put the affairs and the lottery con behind them and move on. Howard was very remorseful, and Kathy figured that he had gone to such extreme lengths in order to win her back and save their marriage. As Howard awaited his court date, the Wamsleys had a difficult time resuming with their normal lives among the community. They were met with hostility when they went to the local pub, and Kathy found it hard to look her friends in the eye. The Warmsleys had hurt a lot of innocent people. On the 3rd of September 2001, Howard Wamsley stood before the Sheffield Crown Court and pleaded guilty to 13 counts of deception. Judge Jane Shipley was harsh on Howard, telling him, "You conned your victims, but you will not con this court." The court heard about the offences that took place between 1997 to 1999. About how he had conned his 2 mistresses into giving him tens of thousands of pounds, and how he produced false documentation to give the impression he had won millions in the lottery, and to persuade banks and businesses to give him credit. It was also revealed that Howard had 3 previous convictions for dishonesty and had served 2 prison terms. Judge Shipley stated, "I take the view that you lived in a fantasy world. You wanted to aspire to the high life, to appear successful, but you seem to lack what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur, so you embarked on a scheme of lies and deceit." Prior to his trial, Howard had also undergone a psychiatric evaluation, where it was concluded that he was likely to offend again. Howard was sentenced to 3 years in prison. That morning, before Howard appeared before the court, he went out and bought Kathy a gold ring. Howard maintained that he had done it all for Kathy, so he could keep her in his life. After Howard's sentencing, Kathy made a statement to the press waiting outside the court. "I feel Howard should not have been jailed for what he has done. Howard did wrong. He knows this and is very sorry. His motives, however, were not malicious. He did this to keep us together. I am standing by him." Howard's story doesn't end there. In September 2019, 18 years after Howard's sentencing, he made headlines again, but this time under the alias John Eric Wells. He is believed to have committed 3 separate instances of romance fraud since 2014, stealing over £400,000 from 3 separate elderly women. Hazel Wilkins, a 73-year-old grandmother from West Sussex, alleges that Howard stole her life savings of £63,000. The 2 had met online, where Hazel was looking for a genuine connection. Howard, now using the names John Eric Wells and Howard Hemmings, told her he was a millionaire and owned multiple companies and hotels located all around the world. Hazel, who was comfortable financially, said she wasn't impressed by his wealth, but fell in love with his charming personality. Hazel was also a security supervisor at Gatwick Airport. Part of her job was to interrogate suspicious passengers and sniff out lies. The relationship became serious, and Howard convinced Hazel to quit her job as he owned a 500-seat restaurant she could manage. They got engaged, but Howard called off their wedding plans 5 times, each time with the excuse that a close friend or relative had died or committed suicide. He was also frequently absent, which he explained was because he had to travel all around the world to run his multiple international businesses. Not long after the couple began their relationship, Howard asked Hazel for £2,000, claiming he wasn't able to access funds at his bank in Doncaster. Alarm bells started ringing for Hazel, but blinded by love, she lent him the money. Howard also borrowed £15,000 from Hazel's sister and another $5,000 from Hazel's daughter to help pay for a new restaurant he was building. Hazel also took out 2 bank loans in 2015, one for £10,000 and another for £7,500, all to help out Howard, who always had an excuse for why he couldn't use his own money. Howard was able to pay back some of these loans, but nowhere close to the full amount. Howard also instructed Hazel to sell her house so they could buy a new home together, as well as a home for her pregnant granddaughter. Hazel was finally fed up with Howard after months of mysterious absences and called it quits on their relationship. He disappeared after that. Hazel was left with no life savings and no home. Sometime after she ended their relationship, Hazel received a phone call from another woman, Lynn, who revealed that she was another victim of Howard's. Howard had been living with Lynn in a flat in Doncaster while he was still in a relationship with Hazel. There, Howard was running an almost identical scam on Lynn, borrowing tens of thousands of pounds from her to pay Hazel and vice versa. Howard had been in a relationship with a third unnamed elderly woman around this time and ran the same scam on her. In total, he took advantage of 3 older vulnerable women who all just simply wanted to form a connection and stole over £400,000 from them. Hazel Wilkins says she now suffers from a total lack of confidence and finds it difficult to trust anyone anymore. Howard Warmsley is still at large and is currently wanted by the South Yorkshire Major Crimes Police Unit. It is believed that he is currently residing in Vietnam with a wealthy woman who has potentially purchased him a barter run. Kathy Walmsley is believed to have moved on with her life without Howard.